There is a Kool-Aid that teachers can drink that keeps them stuck in average. This Kool-Aid is the belief that mastering content makes you a top-tier teacher and that your deep subject knowledge is enough for student success. But this mindset is destructive. It turns humility into personal pride and discourages growth. It will prioritize showcasing one's own intelligence over simplifying concepts for student understanding, and it makes teachers lay blame for failures everywhere else. Now, it's not that knowledge is bad. It's actually great. But when knowledge puffs up at the expense of pedagogy, you're in trouble. Watch this on display when the paragon of the school, Mr. Nolan, confronts the more elastically thinking Mr. Keating in the Dead Poets Society.
I'm hearing rumors, John, about some unorthodox teaching methods in your classroom. What was going on in the courtyard the other day?
Courtyard?
Yeah, boys marching, clapping in unison.
Oh, that was an exercise to prove a point. Dangers of conformity.
Well, John, the curriculum here is set. It's proven it works. If you question it, what's to prevent them from doing the same?
I always thought the idea of education was to learn to think for yourself.
At these boys' age, not on your line.
Now, when it comes to mindset, we're likely somewhere on the spectrum between Mr. Nolan and Mr. Keating, but it's difficult to assess exactly where because outwardly, we all identify with Mr. Keating. He's our aspiration, so admitting our Nolan-like tendencies can be difficult. And consequently, our inner Nolan resides in us quietly, subconsciously, yet still impacting students. We may outwardly talk about a growth mindset, but we'll use the same stale strategies for years. We say reflection is key, but we'll consistently blame students for their failures while never assessing our own teaching. The truth is this: all of us, to one extent or another, have Mr. Nolan tendencies that exist within us. And the good news is this: if we can recognize them, we can grow. Watch Mrs. Gruwell do this in the movie Freedom Riders when she recognizes that she's lost her entire class.
And you all think you're gonna make it to graduation like this?
I made it to high school, ain't nobody stopped me.
Lady, I'm lucky if I make it to 18. We in the war. We graduating every day we live because we ain't afraid to die protecting our own. At least when you die for your own, you die with respect. You die a warrior.
That's right. So when you're dead, you'll get respect. Is that what you think?
That's right.
Yeah. It's real. You're raising your hand?
The thing that you said before. The Holocaust?
Holocaust, yes.
What is that?
Raise your hand if you know what the Holocaust is. Raise your hand if anyone in this classroom has ever been shot at. We're gonna play a game, all right? It's a lot of fun, I promise. This is called the line game. I'm gonna ask you a question. If that question applies to you, you step onto the line. Easy, right? The first question. How many of you have the new Snoop Dogg album?
Now notice when things are off track, Mrs. Gruwell realizes that her appeals to authority don't work. You can almost see her harnessing her inner Nolan. Truly effective teachers focus not just on knowing the content, but on how to transfer that knowledge to their students in meaningful ways. With this aim, they develop a wide array of strategies that allow them to take effective, efficient approaches for every student situation. So if the challenge lies in the teaching more than the knowing, this begs an important question, and that is, how do I craft my instructions so my teaching connects with students in meaningful ways? To do this, I'm going to share with you 4 questions that will help you approach your planning in a productive way. In doing so, you'll be able to recognize when an activity fundamentally works and push back when you feel that stale, Nolan-like tendency getting in the way of their learning. First, what are the fewest number of steps my students need to take to learn this objective at a high level? The goal is efficiency and depth. There's a million steps you could take, but think of a lesson plan like creating a dot-to-dot where each dot is part of a plan. You want to place the fewest number of dots that will still allow students to draw fantastic pictures. Work backward from what the picture should look like and break things into a logical progression, building up from the basics. But remember, if you don't know precisely what the picture is supposed to look like, you can't place the dots efficiently. So you must start with a clear end in mind. Next, how do my activities drive students to analyze, evaluate, and create, not just recall information? The goal is always higher order thinking. You may need to start with some basic recall, but move to deeper waters quickly. Challenge students to analyze, evaluate, and create. Ask questions that push them to think critically about the material and apply it in new context. Don't stop at what happened. Ask the students to create models, evaluate outcomes, and analyze different possibilities, and move them into new depths of knowledge. 3. How can I structure each activity so all students actively think with or without accountability? Every activity in your class should require everyone to process, not just the go-getters. Calling on students with their hands up encourages some to think, while calling on students at random creates an environment where all students are more likely to think. Open questions prompt some students to reflect, but adding a written response and a share component ensures that all students reflect. Avoid questioning techniques where only a few students are required to engage and the rest can stare out into the ether. Instead, buttress all of your activities so that all students are on the hook to be thinking. 4. How do you know that the students have learned the objective? Formative assessments force reflection. Their information tells a story unswayed by our internal biases. This is beautiful because the better you become at getting formative information, the better you'll teach. Even though it's hard when you realize that students missed a concept, it will encourage two things: to anticipate the problem in the future and to course correct now before it's too late. The Mr. Nolans in us rarely formatively assess. They're above that. They believe that students should battle for their scraps of knowledge. Tacticians, though, they battle for student success, and they implement all types of checks to ensure that their kids are on track. The days of simply relaying information are gone. People often ask me, whose job is it to ensure students learn, the student or the teacher? I say yes. So don't drink the Kool-Aid.